Hey Emma, what's one way of giving our first game of the day a kind of mediocre review?
Gosh, I don't know.
Well, you might say, Doom is strange. Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
You like that one?
No.
You're laughing.
It was really bad.
This is such a rare occurrence that my joke actually gets more than just a...
It was real bad.
It was pretty bad. You already took the good, obvious joke last time, so what was I supposed to do?
Something that wasn't that.
I wanted to go uplifting, you know? I didn't want to go, oh, life is doom. Like, oh, like, here's an uplifting way to start your Sunday. Like,
So, Doom is strange.
yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to create, a good combo. We had a nice little mashup going on. It's about video games. Video game reviews are a thing. Do you want me to keep explaining the joke?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
It was pretty funny. Admit it.
No. Anyway.
Thanks for tuning in,
Welcome.
listeners. I'm your hilarious host, Madelyn.
I'm your other host, Emma.
No adjective for you?
No adjectives.
Just Emma.
Just Emma.
And thank you for tuning in to Talk This. We've got some great and, timely games to talk about this week. Sometimes we really pull stuff from the hat really fortuitously.
Yeah. Honestly, this would have been better if it had come out next week. But what can you do?
Well, next week is a side quest, Emma, so you have to take
I know,
what you
that's
can
what
get.
I'm saying. We should have started this whole podcast a week later.
What a mistake we made. What a mistake. So this week on our podcast, for our old game, we'll be talking about that chestnut, that classic, that foundation upon which modern gaming is built.
Doom!
We will be referring to it like that for the entire episode.
Every time we say Doom, we have to say it like that.
Doom is our first game. And then, perhaps the most topically, our new game. Although, does it really even fall in the new game category anymore? But our new game...
I think Before the Storm falls in the new game category.
You're right, it does. However, our new game is Life is Strange.
Yes.
Which
And so does Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, which is technically Life is Strange.
I mean, I guess, did all of the episodes release in 2015, or did any come out in 2016?
Life is Strange?
Yeah.
It debuted in January, so probably all of them in 2015.
So then it should never have gone in the hat in the first place.
Well, it was for Before the Storm.
Oh, I understand. It was one that got put in later.
Yeah.
I understand now. I was confused. I thought, how did this even get into our hat? It broke the rules.
No, it's because of the prequel one.
Well,
and now because Life is Strange 2 is coming out.
Literally this week.
Yes.
Yeah, I was doing my research on Life is Strange, and I was like, oh, like, a sequel. Like, that's getting a lot of press right now. As I knew there was going to be a sequel, but I wasn't. But yeah. We've got the Emma's Magic Random Number Generator. It knows what it's doing.
There's a new Doom coming out in 2019, too, I think.
I'm sorry, a new what?
Doom Eternal, I think is what it's called.
I can't keep it up, but it would be funny. We would lose. We'd go into our little Apple Podcast stats and be like, when do people stop listening? Right around the 5th Doom? Huh, wonder why.
Can't guess, wouldn't know.
Anyway, so our first game that we're going to be talking about this week is the 1993 gaming classic, Doom.
1993. Can you believe that? As an old game.
It's not that old.
It's older than me.
I mean, I know.
It's older than you.
I know that, but it's not that much older than me. Try not to be too old. But it is an old game. It was originally released for the... And I had to, like, look up what this acronym stood for. Hang on. Where did I even write this down? I can't even... It's like the MSDO something. Where did it go in my notes? But it basically...
Is it, like,
yeah,
an arcade cabinet?
No, the MS-DOS, the Microsoft Disk Operating System. It came like, for the PC, but
yeah,
it was released before Windows 95 came out, Emma.
Because it was in 93.
I know, but they couldn't refer to it as like I don't know. It is crazy how long ago it came out. Because most of the time when we're talking about old games, they come out on system things that even if I don't really like know that much about them, I recognize the acronym or the name or at least the company that made them. I was like, what the heck is the MS-DOS?
Well, you do recognize Microsoft, don't you?
Well, I do now, yeah, but it was not referred to that way.
Yeah.
The thing. Anyway, it was originally released for PC. It was really a game that kind of launched PC gaming as something serious, which is weird to think about. And that helped to establish the first-person shooter genre, for which Emma and I are eternally grateful.
It's hard to think about a video game sphere that did not have first-person shooting. But I guess they got there pretty much from not the get-go, but the get-go. You know?
They poisoned the waters forever, you know? Now every game has to be a first-person shooter.
See, I don't mind all first-person shooters.
I don't either.
First-person games, even. You know?
I don't either, but it has to, you know, it's just like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm bad at them.
Yes, I am bad at them also. First, they tend to make me a little motion sick. Although maybe that was just BioShock Infinite, like warping around on the hooks or whatever. That's the one I have the strongest memories of playing. So maybe other first-person shooters aren't that bad, but a little motion sick.
Anyway, crazy to think of that being something innovative at the time, because now I've just grown.
Yeah.
So in Doom, in case you've probably heard the name, even if you're a non-gamer, I feel like Doom is a name that you recognize and you're like, oh, that's a video game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you haven't actually played it or know anything about it, you play as a Marine known affectionately as Doom Guy.
Or Doom Slayer in the 2016 like reboot, which is not as cool as Doom Guy.
That's totally inappropriate, Doom Slayer.
Yeah.
We need something to lighten the mood a little bit in this game.
I want to be Doom Guy, not Doom Slayer.
Seriously. Doom Slayer might be like one of the demons. You know, Doom Guy, he's relatable. Get him a beer with Doom Guy.
Yeah.
He's just hanging out. He's an all-American dude. I don't know. Do we even know? I guess he's a Marine, so he must be American.
He's a Marine, so he probably is. But no, they said like they didn't give him a name because he's supposed to be you, right? They don't beat around the bush with that. It's not really a character. It's just supposed to be the player play acting as a character.
Well, at least they're upfront about it. I dig that.
Yeah.
If that's what you're trying to do, tell me that's what you're trying to do. I don't need.
I mean, he has a little icon, I think. Like, you know, he's like a white blonde. Like if you think Marine, like the stereotypical Marine that you'll think of, right?
Sure.
But
anyway, you play as Doom Guy, and you're sent to Mars, right?
As we send all our Marines.
We send them to Mars. But apparently Mars is like a super boring assignment, which that's how you know the game takes place in the future.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, Mars, that's boring.
Yeah.
But then it's not boring because there's some kind of computer malfunction thing which causes demons from hell to take over the Mars base and kill everyone there except Doom Guy.
This is why we need a space force.
Exactly.
To protect against the demons, the Martian demons.
Correct. Well, they aren't Martian, I don't think. because they're from, spoiler alert, for a 25-year-old game, hell.
The demons are from hell?
I know. Mind-blowing.
Whoa! What a revolutionary concept, really.
This game, like, it's incredible to think that, like, this game is, like, among the most praised, like, most accoladed video game of all time. And it's like, you run around shooting demons from hell. That's all you do.
On Mars.
On Mars. And in hell, eventually.
Oh, good.
There's no real story, really, except, like, shooting demons. It seems to me, from reading about it, that even to get some of the backstory, you really had to read, like, the game guide. Not the, like, strategy guide, but, like, the... Not that Doom was really distributed as CDs in the same way, at least at first, as you think of it now, but I'm thinking of those old, when we actually used to get discs that came in boxes for our games. They'd have the little instruction guide with some info.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of games used to also include, like, backstory. Like, the Kingdom Hearts booklet had, like, intros to all the characters.
I was just thinking about that. Yes, I was like, their ages are all in there.
Yeah. That's not really a practice anymore, but it was back in the 90s and even early 2000s. They would have little booklets that would, like, tell you the controls. The controls would also be in there, and a little bit of, like, backstory and about the characters. Yeah.
Who needs that when all the game developers are on Twitter?
That's true.
Twitter is the 2018 equivalent of the guide book. I keep saying, like, things that sound like strategy guides, and that's not what I mean. But you know what I mean, listeners. You know what I mean.
Do they, though? Maybe they're too young to know.
Anyway, something else I love about Doom, I say that very strongly, even though I only learned it about half an hour ago, is these frickin', like, metal episode titles.
Give me some episode titles.
Knee Deep in the Dead.
That's pretty metal.
Is the first one. I didn't write anyone else, the other ones down, but, like, Knee Deep in the Dead? Come on. You don't need anything else. That's Game of the Year. Stamped.
Yeah.
Done. Anyway, other things that are... Like, Doom, I feel like, literally just is the grandfather... Grandmother? Could be the grandmother. The grandparent.
Grandfather.
Yeah,
Let's be real.
It's the grandfather of all modern gaming, really. It seems to me. Because, okay, we got the first-person shooter. We already discussed how that's super ubiquitous, right? We've also got kind of the first, not the first exactly, but a very significant episodic release. So Doom, like, it's plays in episodes, right? And some of those episodes are just like levels, but they also, one of the ways that they got Doom to be really, really popular is they used a form of, it's called shareware. Basically it's like you get the file and then instead of today's universe where you've got DRM on it and you can't, like, have somebody else also play on the same disc, right? You were encouraged to spread it far and wide, and this, like, shareware contained the first, like, level or two of Doom. And that's how they got people hooked. Yeah. So it's demo culture, too.
Yeah, I also, like, the Wikipedia page is just like, it did this, and this, and this, and 20 million people played it.
Yeah, okay, I've got some great quotes. Ready? ID Software, in 1993, like, pre-release of Doom, on January 1st, 1993, ID Software, which developed the game and also Wolfenstein, they wrote that they expected Doom to be, quote, the number one cause of decreased productivity in businesses around the world.
Wow.
And you know what? They were right. It was a big problem at workplaces, apparently. Because, like, people were, like, taking up all of the computer network capability, which in 1993 was not that much, right? Playing Doom. And, like, Intel and various other companies like literally had to like ban Doom during work hours, which you'd think would go without saying, right? Don't play video games at work, but apparently they had to specifically account for that. Another quote, this one from Wikipedia, I don't quite know where the quote comes from, so who knows, but still funny. At the Microsoft campus, Doom was by one account equal to a, quote, religious phenomenon.
Jeez, does that sound like another game we've covered most recently?
That's exactly what I was thinking, Emma. What gamer could you possibly be referring to that is sweeping the nation?
I don't know. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Like, you know, there's such like a not necessarily like a moral panic, but a bit of a moral panic about Fortnite right now. And it's always interesting to go back and like be like, things people are panicking about now, they've been panicking about since these things were things, you know?
Well, I want to get back to that panic and that controversy a little, but first I have to say that the middle school class that I teach, were very impressed when I told them that I played Fortnite.
Oh, wow.
Because they were all like playing it on a break, and I heard the music. I was like, is that Fortnite? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, like, I just started playing it for the first time a couple weeks ago. And they were like, what's your handle? And I was like, no.
Come on, play Fortnite with the middle schoolers, Madelyn. That sounds like a great time.
No, and they would wreck me. One of them was like, oh yeah, like, I just got a headshot kill. And I was like, ah.
This is so off topic, but, like, Waypoint had, like, a whole feature about, like, Fortnite and, like, schools, right? And there's like some teacher that was like, okay, you get this done, we'll play a round of Fortnite. You get this done, we'll play a round of Fortnite. It's like, well, you know,
that's my personal,
you can't beat them.
That's my personal productivity strategy. Like I told you this week, whenever I have to get stuff done but I'm feeling lazy, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fire up like Persona or whatever video game I'm playing, and I'll be like, I'll play a day, I'll play a level, I'll get to the next room, and then I'll stop and work for 5 minutes or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Good strategy, I think.
Yeah. Also
crazy, though. But speaking of schools and controversy and whatnot, Doom is also famous for a slightly more unsavory connection, which unfortunately continues to be something that we discuss to this day, which is its connection with real-life violence. So Doom gets a lot of press and took some flack at the time because it's like really violent, right? It's just I mean, the developers described it as basically just like whack-a-mole with demons. All you're doing is just like mowing down demons, lots of blood and carnage. It's one of the first games when it's released for kind of a real system to actually receive the M rating, which again, crazy to think that like it took us to the 90s to have like quote unquote M rated games. Weird. So it's really, really violent. Which, you know, in and of itself, well, there's lots of violent video games. Video games have kind of always been violent. What do you think is happening to those people piloting the spaceships in Galaga, huh? But Doom gets a lot of bad press because it was apparently one of the favorite video games of the Columbine shooters, who wrote specifically about kind of wanting to emulate not just Doom, but this kind of combination of violent media, including Doom. So it's one of the first games to really be tied to real-life violence in a way that we kind of continue to do every time there is some kind of a mass shooting. The shooter's video game preferences are analyzed if we know anything about them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, we've talked about this on the show before, like, especially nowadays, like, it'll be rarer to find someone who doesn't play video games than somebody who does, you know, especially among young people, and especially even among young males, right? So, of course, like, Columbine was older, so maybe it was a little more rare then, but, like, of course they play violent media now. They watch lots of violent stuff on TV and everywhere. Yeah. And I think Columbine was one of the ones where one of the only, at least of the more quote unquote well-known, I guess is better than the word I was going to use, well-known ones, where like a specific game is quoted, you know?
Yeah, and particularly gruesomely, there was a kind of pervasive rumor that, so something else that Doom is kind of famous for is the modding capability, right? So
Yeah.
Doom was built with the intention that people could create their own levels, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's, like, I want to talk about this too, because I just like can't, like, that seems like it's such a popular thing around this time, and I can't fathom that, but I want to go back. But yeah, it had this like horrible rumor that one of the shooters had designed a Doom level that was like his high school and like used it to practice, which did not end up being true. He had designed some levels, but none of them bear any real resemblance to Columbine. But like, what a horrible, horrible thought.
Yeah.
Anyway, transitioning away from that kind of dark discussion, because as Emma said, we've had the talk about violence in video games and the correlation but not causation between that and real life violence that we sort of believe. So go back and find that episode if you're interested, because we won't rehash it here. But yeah, something that I find fascinating is so many of these older games that we talk about, especially these kind of mid-90s type games, are designed for everyone to be like designing their own levels, or like even if they aren't designed for that, people are designing their own levels. And I just can't, I know that that's still a thing that is in gaming now, but it's hard to imagine, like, I couldn't design my own level of a video game.
I love mods that are just like I think these are like the simplest version of mods, really, but like character swap.
Noodletus!
Yeah. There's a Kingdom Hearts mod for Final Fantasy 15. There's the Final Fantasy 15 one where it's like retro, like they're like blocky polygons, like the old Final Fantasy stuff. There was a Call of Duty mod where they put like anime girls in for it was really just like, it was like a reskin. It was like the easiest thing apparently in the modding community, but it's just so amusing. It's just like, yes, honestly, would be more likely to play Call of Duty if it was just a bunch of anime girls.
But that's one thing, right? Like, I feel like, and again, now, like, I'm, like, just listing off all these things. I'm like, another thing Doom is famous for. Another thing Doom is famous for. Guys, it's famous for a lot of stuff, okay? Get the picture. But another thing Doom is famous for is the Doom engine, right? The Doom engine was really revolutionary at the time because it allowed you to create quote-unquote realistic, take that with a grain of salt.
3D, right?
Yeah. Not that most of it is not actually 3D. It's because, it was not running on processors that could handle that. It was just very clever trickery to make it seem 3D. But I just can't imagine being like, yeah, I'm going to take this, like, fancy engine and build my own level for this game. I mean, I think it speaks to how pervasive, as you were saying, and popular and accessible that video games are now. That... There's no way I could do that. Whereas maybe in the early and mid-90s, the people that were into video games, and this could be completely wrong. I'm stereotyping gamers here, so, rip me if I'm wrong here. Older people that listen. But it seems to me like during that time period, probably the people that were playing video games were a little bit more interested in tech and computer science and that kind of thing. Just those sorts of people would probably be the people that gravitated towards something that was, I don't know, a little more of a niche hobby then, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's still, like, the gamer community that does mods, just like there's the gamer community that does speedruns or, all those sorts of niche interests within the gaming interest. But now that there are, like, more publicly accessible consoles and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And everybody has a Nintendo Switch in their home sitting there gathering dust until Smash Ultimate comes out. That, like, there's still, like, the communities, but it's not, like, everybody, you know? And it is sort of still this style of game, like the first-person shooters, like Half-Life, stuff like that I think has the most active, like, level creating mod communities. At least that's been my impression.
I just wish I knew anything at all, and you probably know at least a little more than me, about how to do that. Like, I haven't watched as many of these. Clickbait Boyfriend, I think, watched a bunch a while ago because he thinks it's cool. But the, like, Boundary Break YouTube videos.
Yeah, I think Boundary Break's pretty cool too.
Those are wild because I did not know anything about how video games work. Mm-hmm. Right? And I still kind of don't. It's something that I would like to learn a lot more about because whenever I do learn about it, I find it really fascinating. But, like, for example, do I really fully understand what an engine is? I don't know.
It's what you make the game in.
No, yeah, thanks. I knew that. Like, is it just, like, a fancy version of Microsoft Word? You know, like, it's just a program?
Like, it has, like, systems in it, right? So, like, you can, like, apply things that are already there and then adjust them as you need them.
Is it just, like a video game tycoon where I, like, move things around and I build it?
I've fiddled around in both Unity and Unreal just for funzos. I don't really know how to explain it. But those are both free if anybody's interested in what an engine sort of looks like, because those are two free, publicly available engines that you can get.
Maybe I'll download them and build a game this week.
Do it.
Just a teeny little game. As if I have time.
But yeah, like, so Unity and Unreal are, like, ones that a bunch of companies use, and then other companies have proprietary engines.
Well, fascinating.
Yeah.
Another couple of things about Doom, just as we transition into our new game. So Doom, super successful, right? Obviously, we talked about that. So there have been a couple of Dooms. There was a Doom 2. There was a Doom in 1994. There was a Doom 3 in 2004, which it seems like was a reboot or a remake, I think.
Yeah.
And then there was another Doom, which started its life in 2008 as Doom 4, and then it was eventually released in 2016 as yet another Doom reboot.
Yeah.
Again, between this and... what did we talk about last week? Resident Evil, which also has had, like, 3 reboots, right? I really thought rebooting stuff was a very new phenomenon, but apparently it was big in the early aughts, too. I didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also had a really terrible movie.
Yeah.
That bombed. But guess what, folks? It's 2018. We're rebooting everything. So Universal announced a new one coming. They announced it this year. Who knows when it's coming. But they're making another Doom movie.
Wow.
Why?
And Doom Eternal coming out.
True.
Next game.
Ugh.
A direct sequel.
It's so weird how we just get into this cycle of, you know, going back to the past and pulling things to the present and remaking them again. And if we don't like it, we get to just repeat it and we get to remake it again. Isn't that strange?
I guess.
Oh my gosh.
I don't mind reboots.
You ruined my segue.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't really listening. What was the segue?
I was like, it's...
time travel.
And then, isn't it strange?
It is very strange.
Like life?
Yes.
Wow. Emma admitted live on the podcast that she doesn't listen to what I say.
In one of our last episodes, I did a little edit where I didn't listen to what you said, so I'm fairly freely admit it. But anyway, Life is Strange is a game from Don't Nod Entertainment.
Published by Talk This favorite, Square Enix.
Squeenix!
Do you think they'll appear in Kingdom Hearts 3?
Squeenix? Like, the company?
No, like...
The Life is Strange
that'd be
characters?
like,
No.
Here's how we're gonna explain the time travel.
They're not... Square Enix isn't the developers for Life is Strange. They're the publishers.
Yeah, I know. That was a joke.
Okay, whatever. So it's hard to tell sometimes.
Rude.
Life is Strange is an anthology series, I guess, about teenagers with special powers. The original one was made in 2015 by Don't Nod. Before the Storm was a prequel about one of the characters in Life is Strange that has no powers in it. That was not made by Don't Nod. It was made by somebody else. Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit was a little short prequel to Life is Strange 2. And now Life is Strange 2 is coming out on the 27th. The first episode is.
Wait, so you're telling me Square Enix published a game where they're just like throwing random prequels and sequel prequels all over the place with titles that don't include numbers?
Okay, whatever. Life is Strange 2 is a number.
I know that.
Just saying.
It's just funny.
But Life is Strange is a very niche title. It's written by French people, and you can kind of tell. I think is the best way to describe it.
You need to elaborate on that.
It's like how French people think American teenagers talk.
Right.
So it's very hipster. They say hella a lot. Stuff like that. It's like charming, I think, most of the time in like a quirky way, but it can also rub some people the wrong way when they play it. But people also really liked it. Anyway, the first one you play as Max, who is a girl who discovers that she has like time traveling powers. They're sort of nebulous. They're never really defined. Just like she's able to manipulate time in weird ways. But of course, because time travel is bad, that causes a storm to be coming. And all this time, there's like a whole Twin Peaks plot of like a girl is missing and stuff that her and her old best friend Chloe have to like investigate and try to figure out where she went. But Life is Strange 2 so far does not seem to be related at all to Life is Strange 1, beyond the fact that one of the main characters, which seems like not the character you play as, but a different character, has some sort of psychic telekinesis type powers.
Well, I'll never play this game, although I could. I didn't realize it came out on PS3. I guess I could have tried to get it. But it contains two of my least favorite things in my entertainment media, which are time travel and Twin Peaks. Yep, outing myself. Do not care for Twin Peaks. Have watched the first episode, I think 3 times, and it just was really bad every single time.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate.
I think people who like Twin Peaks even are like, you just have to keep watching it, right?
I know, but I
haven't watched Twin Peaks either, so I don't know. But I liked Life is Strange. I didn't love it. Some people love it. I didn't love it. It was okay. I thought it had a lot of really strong moments and a lot of really weak moments. And I thought that the 2 endings, there was clearly the one you were supposed to pick and the one that is just there to have a choice. I think I talked about it a little bit in my choice-based mechanics play this. That there's definitely one that feels more fleshed out and feels like it fits the story that they were trying to tell. And then there's one that's just like, F it, basically. So I'm interested in Life is Strange 2 also. The original Life is Strange was also really praised, because LGBT representation, which, you know, like, is good, but at the same time, it's like, and this is like a French stereotype I have, but like French people love to put lesbians in their media, right? Like blue is the warmest color. That's French, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's one thing, it's like great, but it's also like, yes, of course they're putting it in. They're French, which I know is a stereotype. But
all you've been doing this whole description is being like, oh, it's so French. It's French.
It does. It
French.
Feels very French. It feels. I don't know how to describe it. It just feels very French in its aesthetic. I don't even really know what that means. I'm making like weird grabby motions with my hands. Life is Strange 2 has good ethnic representation, which I think it will be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah. I don't know what I hope. It's hard, right? Because you want, with that kind of representation, it's like, on one hand, I don't want it to be a big thing at all. It's like, let's just throw people in that are from places that aren't white. You know, it's great. We don't have to treat them differently. On the other hand, it's like, well, but also that's wrong. Mm-hmm. So it's hard. It's hard to know how I hope that they'll handle it. Do I hope that they'll ignore it and not make it about the race and just like, here it is? Or do I hope that they'll try to do something a little bit more ambitious than that?
Well, from the teaser trailer, or the trailers that I've watched them, it seems like they're doing a little bit of both, in that there's a lot of different types of people that are in there, but the premise of the story, like, they're Mexican, I think, Hispanic of some sort. And, like, the way it starts off, and they've shown this in all the trailers, like, you get into a fight, you know, your little brother gets into a fight with someone, you accidentally shove him, he hits his back on a rock and is, like, severely injured. A police officer happens to be coming by at that time, points a gun at you, shoots your dad, and then your little brother's powers activate, and you seem to be on the run from the law during this time.
Interesting.
So, like, in that premise, you can see them engaging with, like, people who aren't white are sometimes, you know, more, like, the police are a little edgier around them, and how that works and how that interacts. But at the same time, like, I always feel like I felt like this with, like, Wolfenstein 2 also, which is, like, these are European developers, right, talking about, like, American things, which, like, you know, people can tell whatever story they want, but at the same time, it feels like when you didn't grow up learning that history, right, that maybe you don't fully get the entire context of it, and so it can be harder to write about.
Or maybe if you're on the outside, you see it without the clouding of having learned about it from growing up through whatever lens you did.
I guess so.
I'm inclined to generally agree with you that probably it's just harder to understand from outside, but depends, I guess.
Like, I mean, I'm sure, I know Wolfenstein did a lot of research, for instance, but, like, if I wanted to write a story about French politics, like, if I just jumped into it now, like, I don't know, what are French politics, what are their issues, that sort of stuff. Like, I have a general idea from the news I've read, but I don't have any sort of nuance or having lived in it and experienced it or anything like that. It's tough.
On another representation level, this isn't one of those games. We've talked about several games, I feel like, where the developers have mentioned this, but they were, at Don't Nod, pretty intent on having a female protagonist. But of course, when you're a very, very small indie game studio, and, like, they've said afterwards, like, if this game hadn't done well, like, that would have been it, right? You need a publisher, right? You can't just put out the game, you need a publisher. And they shopped it around to a bunch of publishers, and none of them but Square Enix were willing to keep the female protagonist. Which is crazy. It's whatever year it was then, 2014. Come on, people.
Yeah, I mean, I, like, not just because of female protagonists, but, I mean, I'm sure that is part of it, but I'm really surprised that it ended up doing well. you know, like, I'm pretty sure it was a pretty good commercial success, as well as a reasonable critical success. And it's like, it seems so, it's hard, it's like, well, for instance, Telltale is shutting down.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
I hadn't heard that.
None of the, apparently, like, behind the scenes thing says none of their games since The Walking Dead season 1 have been a commercial success.
No way!
Yes. So it's always surprising, like, because Life is Strange is, like, in the tradition of Telltale.
Yeah.
Which is, like, when you think of that style of game, you think of Telltale, right? And, like, you make choices, and you walk around, and you pick stuff up, and that sort of stuff. And it has a little bit of a mechanic with, like, the time travel thing of, like, eliminating sort of, like, you make a choice, and then you immediately regret it, but you have to reset it. You can just reset it right there, which is kind of nice. You know, you can actually think about a choice. And it works for this kind of game that's a little bit chiller than, like, zombies, you know? But yeah, it's surprising to me that we're banking all of it on this.
Well, it's kind of the perfect 2015 indie game, though, isn't it? It's choice-based. It's kind of like a weirdly magical, mystical. It takes place in, like, the Pacific Northwest. You know, like, it hits all of those, like, 2015 indie game buttons. So, I am a little bit surprised, because I'm always surprised when niche non-AAA games are games that people have heard of. It does make a certain amount of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially in games, like, and this is, like, my marketing, cold, pragmatic side speaking, but, like, if there's a game with, like, any sort of representation, like, that group is gonna latch onto it like nobody's business because they can't find it anywhere else. Right? So I guess thinking about it, it does make sense that is a game that, at least it caught on very hard among that subsection of gamers, of which the gaming industry believes is smaller than I think it actually is.
Well, hopefully we're learning from that. We'll see how Life is Strange 2 does.
Yeah.
We've also, I think, talked about Life is Strange, at least in passing before, during the video game actors, the voice actors strike last year.
Right, yeah.
Which is another thing, I feel like if you've heard of Life is Strange and you're plugged into the video game community, that might be something that you've heard about it for. Or even if you're not that plugged into the video game community, but you are plugged into the SAG-AFTRA community, that's probably what you've heard about it for. Because Life is Strange Before the Storm was really one of the big, quote-unquote, casualties of the voice acting strike.
Yes.
Since Ashley Birch, who plays Chloe's like the protagonist of Before the Storm, she couldn't come back because she was on strike.
Yes.
But, I don't know. She was on as a writing consultant, which, like, come on.
I mean, that character was important to her.
I know, but if you're on strike and you're still working with the company that you're striking against, why are you even bothering to be on strike? Do you know what I mean?
It's hard. It's a hard decision.
I get that, but also, again, it's just like, the idea of the strike is that to make their games worse, right? The idea of striking is, look, without these actors, your games are worse. And you're still there helping them to make the game better. I get that it's complicated.
Before the Storm was still worse than Life is Strange. At least in my opinion. Before the Storm was not great. It was pretty bad. But yeah.
It just feels like if you're gonna go that much against the spirit of the strike, you might as well just voice the character.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I get it. I get that it's hard. But also I read that and I'm like, ugh. Like, you're helping no one here. You've picked the middle ground and everyone is worse off for it.
Mm-hmm.
But oh well. So, it's gonna be tricky, but should we try to mash these two games together?
We can sure try.
Okay, so it's really hard because Life is Strange is like only story, and Doom is only shooting demons.
Time traveling demons.
No.
Time travel on Mars.
I think
with a gun.
I think your character has to be able to time travel. There has to be some kind of time travel mechanic.
Like super hot.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like time moves where you move.
Don't know what that means.
Time moves when you move. We've talked about super hot on this.
I know.
Maybe we haven't.
But I have no brain.
Super hot is a first-person shooter in which people are shooting at you and you have to shoot them first, but time only moves when you're moving.
Oh, see, that feels like a first-person shooter I could handle.
Yeah, it's more like a puzzle game than it is a shooter, really.
Dang, because that was going to be sort of my idea. I was like, okay, so the whole idea, whatever, the whole idea is shooting a bunch of demons, but bear with me here. The whole quote-unquote story idea of Doom is that you have to get off of Mars and get back to Earth, right? And the only way to do that is to go through all the demons. But I wonder if there's a version of the game that isn't really a shooter. It's just instead, you have to, like, carefully use your time-traveling abilities to kind of avoid all the demons. Lame game, I know.
Yeah. I don't know how excited I would be to play that.
You wouldn't be.
There is actually like a stealth section in one of the episodes of Life is Strange where you like use your rewind powers to avoid people, and it sucked. It was really hard and finicky. So I don't know if I trust that mechanic.
So not that. Good. Okay. Let's see. What else? Maybe I'm trying to think of, like, with time-traveling demons, like, what could you do with that? But I don't think that really does anything different than what the game is. Like, those demons might as well be time-traveling. Who would know the difference?
Yeah. I guess that's true. The demons come because you time-traveled.
Yep, but this...
So you're, like, the one who brought about the end of the world. And now you're dealing with the consequences.
So it's Doom, except there's a teeny bit of backstory.
Sure.
Alternately, it's Life is Strange, but it's demons instead of a storm.
Also, they're not from hell, they're from Hella.
Oh my god. Well, I like that. Well, okay, how about this then? If, like, a French game studio made a Doom, how would it be different? They're from Hella.
Would be, like, more pastel, I don't know.
Sure.
Some bloom effects.
Okay.
I'm just making stuff up.
This is the Tetris episode all over again.
There would be, like, deep female friendships that are also romantic. Wink. I don't know. I've run out of my French cinema stereotypes.
You're in high school instead of on Mars. 'Cause whatever. And instead of demons, it's like horrible high schoolers.
No. We're getting into dangerous territory here, Mel.
It's not going to be a shooter. No, don't worry. Instead of shooting them, you have to destroy them all, like, verbally. With insults that you hurl.
Your truth bullets?
Yeah.
Are we Danganronpa now?
No.
Is that what we are?
But to load up on your truth bombs, call them truth bombs.
Okay.
You have to time travel back in time to learn what the correct truth bombs are.
That is kind of what you do in Life is Strange, actually.
See, so we're just taking what you do in Life is Strange and adding and they can kind of look like demons, right? Like, they represent high schoolers, but they're like lizard queens and stuff, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
And then you throw a truth bomb at them. And they turn back into people. And you can go buy them.
Okay.
It's all about understanding your fellow man and how to devastate him with words.
Sounds wholesome.
I mean, you could make it wholesome, right? It could just be like, you have to go back in time and learn, like, what's the thing to say to make them like you? But
I guess so. Yeah, that actually is Life is Strange. That's like the main gameplay mechanic of Life is Strange.
Great, so it'll be like that.
You nose around people's room, offend them, rewind, and then politely ask them about what you nosed around to find out.
Great, so we'll do that, except that this time there's, like, action sequence portions where you have to, like, you know, actually throw the correct truth bombs.
Okay.
How do we feel about that?
I feel pretty bad about that, but I don't know if we're going to come up with anything better.
Whatever. I think it could work.
Okay, Mel.
They're lesbians. Will that help?
I'm sorry I diminished all of Life is Strange down into that. But yeah. I mean, that is sort of like the Max-Chloe relationship. Whether or not you choose to take it romantically, is what the game is known for. So, I guess I'm not sorry. I'm a little sorry.
Wow, truth bomb. And the last truth bomb of the level is the biggest one, and you go, "Hella truth bomb!" And it's
yeah. There definitely has to be copious use of the word hella, or else it truly is not a Life is Strange crossover.
And it's episodic. They're both episodic. It's episodic.
Okay.
I think we've come up with something that is passable.
Sure.
It's passable.
I think we would be laughed out of the
And you can create your
room.
own levels with you and your friends.
Okay.
Where you have to snoop around to find truly devastating or kind things to say to your own friends and truth bomb them.
Oh no. Oh no.
You can choose which way you want to play.
Oh no.
Will you roast each other or will you toast each other?
Oh wow. Is that what the game's called?
Roast or toast?
Roast or toast. Hella edition.
Hella roast or hella toast?
Anyway, that's been our episode.
Thanks for tuning in.
We hope
I'll take over since I've
enjoyed.
devastated Emma with that truth bomb of a game idea.
Oh god.
If you liked this episode, or at least the part before we started to come up with a game idea, you should subscribe to us on the podcasting platform of your choice. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and pretty much anywhere that you can find podcasts. So subscribe. We'd love it if you would leave us a rating or a review. That would be super cool. We love those. And if you really like the podcast and you want more than just once a week, we release on Sundays at noon, once a week, more than that. If you want it more than that, I've gotten stuck in a little loop here. If you want more content from Talk This, you should check out www.talkthispodcast.com. Boy, do I wish I had time travel powers so I could rewind and say that in a nice way. On our website, you can check out our blog, where we publish our weekly series, Clickbait Boyfriend, which is about my boyfriend playing through the Kingdom Hearts series for the first time. Split Screen, which is just kind of our off-topic corner on the blog, where Emma and I are watching amazing K-drama Boys Over Flowers and amazing anime, actually amazing. Although, you know what, they're both actually amazing. I'm not even ashamed. My Hero Academia. So check that out for sure. There's also other blogs that pop up. As I'm recording this, Clickbait Boyfriend is working on his Clickbait Girlfriend post as about me playing Portal. So check out that soon. There's Buzz This, which is the series where I take BuzzFeed quizzes about video games and video game related things, X Thoughts and X Hours, all sorts of great content on the blog, plus our About page, our Contact page, and links to our social media. Our social media? What's that? Glad you asked, listener. We're on Facebook, Twitter. Why did you ask what is social media, you dummy? But anyway, I'll tell you. We're on Facebook, if you've heard of it, Twitter, and Instagram on Talk This Podcast, where we post links to our blog, articles that we're reading, thoughts that we have, memes, the works. And we're also on YouTube, where we're Talk This Sisters, so you should follow and or subscribe to those pages. Going back to our website for a second, also on there, you can check out the games that we've got in the hat for our upcoming episodes, which we're going to be picking from randomly right now.
Yes, I still do not have real hats
Ugh.
because I have a life that I have to do things for. Also, I just am lazy. But we're doing Random Picker. It's miniwebtool.com/random-picker. It's very helpful. And we're going to do The Secret of Monkey Island for our old game.
See, that could have gone well with Life is Strange.
Yeah. And for our new game, we're talking about iconoclasts.
Woo!
Yeah. And get back to ranting about iconoclasts instead of ranting about Octopath Traveler. Isn't this great, listeners?
It's gotta be one or the other. Octopath Traveler.
Oh, God. No. Thank you.
Octoclasts.
No. Please, no. I wrote my script for my Octopath Traveler playlist today.
Well, that's exciting.
Yep. It's very exciting.
Is it 2 hours long?
No. It's 11 minutes long.
Okay. That's better. Anyway, listeners, look forward to this episode in 2 weeks. We won't be monkeying around. Or will we? It's gonna be bananas.
Nope.
Ha-ha.
Nope.
Uh,
Mound's already got like 50 puns circling through her head.
Oh.
I can see them.
I'm gonna go ape. Anyway, next week, though, tune in for one of our side quest episodes where we talk about what we've been playing, answer some question prompts that we make for ourselves. Hey, if you've got questions of the fortnight or the weather report, by the way, send them in. Don't know why I've never asked that before, but
yeah, give us questions. We love questions.
that would be cool. And go into our off-topic corner and all sorts of other fun stuff. Who knows? You won't want to miss it. And on that note, thanks for tuning in, listeners. This has been Talk This. I'm Madelyn.
I'm Emma.
And
I hope this week that your life is not so strange or doomed.
oof.